All right, Houston Rockets destroyed the Golden State Warriors. Not really, they didn't actually destroy them, but they did at least snatch their soul for this night. They kind of sat Golden State on their lap and just gave them a really good spanking all night long. I'm going to get into Houston in a second here. All credit to Houston. Their defense was just gross out there if you watch the game. But first thing first, it's going to be glaring. If you haven't seen the numbers or didn't watch the game, you're going to be amazed right now. We see right here Stephen Curry's stats. He's 1 for 10 from the field, 1 for 8 from 3. Doesn't make any free throws. If you do the math, he scored 3 points. 3 points, 8 assists, 2 rebounds, 4 turnovers. Houston's defense was just killing Steph. They were making him super, super uncomfortable, and they just did a great job on him. I'll get into the defense and kind of how they were guarding Steph in a second here. But first things first, when I saw this, I was thinking, man, what's Stephen Curry's career low, his lowest scoring game he's ever had in the NBA. There have been 5 times where he scored 0 points, but that was, I think 2012 was the last time that happened. A lot of those games when he was, a rookie or very young and he wasn't getting a lot of minutes or a lot of chances to take shots and put up points. There was a game against Memphis in December this year, or last year, but this season in 2024, where he only scored 2 points against the Grizzlies. But, needless to say, it's a very rare thing for Steph Curry to not score at least 10 points, let alone less than 5 points. But Houston did a crazy job on Stephen Curry. I've been mentioning in all my videos, if you are a hater of new school NBA, if you're an old school guy and you're like, man, all these players are soft as hell and they don't play physical basketball, the game's boring, too many threes being shot, this and that. That's your opinion, but if you haven't been watching basketball and you want to see some physical playoff style basketball, you should start watching the games right now because we're already in the playoffs. Referees are officiating the games like playoff games. All the games, especially amongst two of the top teams in the West like this, all the games have playoff implications. Everyone's trying to position themselves, to kind of match up with this team or that team, and it's just so hard to tell who you're even going to match up against because I think it's 3, 4, 5, even the 6 seed. They're all just switching almost every night. Um, Denver just lost the other night. I think they're like the 4 or the 5 seed right now. Each loss, each win, it's just shaking up the standings. Everything's so close, you almost can't even, strategically position yourself here or there because you don't know what's going to happen underneath you. But with that being said, for all the old heads that hate the NBA now, all these guys are soft. Back in my day, if you came into the lane, I would have clotheslined your ass. I would have popped you with an elbow in the face and knocked your teeth out. That's not a flex. It's not a flex to say, oh, basketball was so dirty back in my generation. Was it Kurt Rambis that just got the shit clotheslined out of him? Like, it's not a flex to say, oh, the players back then they weren't as skilled, so they just used their physicality to substitute for their skills. Shaq was talking about Jokic the other night. This is off subject, but Shaq was saying, "Oh, if Jokic was playing back in my day, barbecue chicken, I would turn around and elbow him in the face and knock his teeth out." It's like, dude, that's not a flex, Shaq. Just appreciate the new generation. We appreciate y'all's generation. At least I do, and a lot of the fans. But the commentators are such haters of this generation. But back on the point, NBA is super physical right now. If you've been watching the games, referees are not blowing the whistle for almost anything, and you love to see it. It's super entertaining. But we'll get to the Rockets right now. If you didn't watch the game, this is kind of the defense they were playing on Steph Curry. Say Steph Curry's right here, and Dylan Brooks, Thompson, whoever it was on Steph. Say Steph's in the middle. They're just like this. Their hands are just out like this, and Steph's like right here in the middle. It was almost like a childish defense. I guess childish isn't the right word, but it was like, I'm not touching you. I'm not touching you. Say these are the arms. Steph is just right here, and they're basically giving him a hug, but they're not touching him. I don't know if that's legal or not defensively. There's plenty of times where they were fouling him off the ball. I saw a bunch of times where the guys had their left or right arm just wrapped around Steph Curry's waist so he couldn't come off this screen or that screen. But I just love to see it. Honestly, I love to see the physicality being allowed and letting that hard defense, be played because that's kind of how I like to see basketball being played. And I don't think anyone's complaining about the physicality ramping up as the playoffs are coming up. Um, with that being said, I mean, yeah, Thompson. I saw Brooks spend some time on Curry. I saw Van Fleet spend some time on Curry, and like I said, they were just giving that man a hug off ball. Like Steph Curry's in the middle of my arms, and I'm basically like this, but I'm not touching you. I'm not touching you. If Steph Curry tries to move, he would run into their arms. So I don't know. Comment below what you think. They were playing just super physical defense, just giving him no contact hugs off the ball, hooking him around the waist. A lot of stuff was happening. There was a lot of off-ball fouls, in my opinion, on Steph that weren't called, but nothing was egregious enough to where they had to call this foul or that foul. You shouldn't give Houston all the credit. Super physical defense. They have a lot of physical guards. Thompson, Dylan Brooks, Van Fleet's a good defender. Jalen Green's more of an offensive player, but he can play good defense when he really wants to. Eason, Cam Whitmore, they have a lot of Steven Adams is more of a paint defender, but they have a lot of good defenders on the team, and they made life really hard for Stephen Curry. Again, he only had the 3 points. Am I worried about Steph Curry? Do I think, they figured out the puzzle? Now they know how to stop Steph Curry. Everybody's gonna watch this game and they're gonna be able to stop Steph Curry. No, I don't think that at all. If Houston matches up against Golden State in the playoffs, I'm taking Golden State in 6 games. I feel like Houston's just too young still. Yes, they played the physical defense. They looked really good in this game, but my number one takeaway is Houston's defense is cold. They're a super fun young team to watch, and they have a lot of potential moving forward. They're the number 2 seed. They basically have it locked up at this point, and I think they're going to be fun in the playoffs. I see them making it out of the second round and probably getting knocked out in the second round against the Warriors, Lakers, Thunder. Who knows who they'll match up against? But they're taking steps in the right direction. They could possibly upset a team and make it to the conference finals, but I think they're just too young. I don't really see that happening quite so soon. But my main takeaway, number one, great defense, super fun young team to watch in Houston. But then my number two takeaway is yes, they did a great job on Steph Curry. He only scored 3 points on 10 shots, 1 for 8 from three. So you can't sit there and act like they didn't do a great job. They obviously did a great job on Curry. And honestly, on all the other Warriors, I mean, Buddy Hield was their leading scorer with 20 points. So nobody got off against the Rockets. They're just a really cold defensive team, really physical, and they did a great job. But with that being said, like I said, my second takeaway, Steph Curry scores 3 points. He misses 9 shots out there, and from the Rockets' standpoint, you only win the game by 10 points. So if I was Ime Udoka, the Rockets coach, and I saw that we held Steph Curry to 3 points and we only won by 10, I'd be thinking to myself, man, there should have been a gigantic blowout. Honestly, we should have won the game by 20, 25 points. I know it doesn't really matter if you win the game by 1 point or 20 points. A win is a win. But when you hold Steph Curry to 3 points, you don't expect to win the game by 10. Like I said, you expect it to be a 20 plus point blowout. Especially if you look through Houston's players, even offensively, Thompson gives you 14. Dylan Brooks gives you 24 on 10 for 13 shooting, which is insane. Dylan Brooks is not going to do that every single night. So, I mean, even with Dylan Brooks scoring 24 on 10 for 13 shooting, Şengün has 19 points and 14 rebounds. He's a beast out there, really underrated. Jalen Green has 21 points on 9 for 19. Decent efficiency. He can be inefficient at times, but Jalen Green is spectacular to watch. Jabari Smith gives you 16 points as well. So if you just look through everyone, I mean, Van Fleet was 1 for 8, so he had a bit of an off night. But if you look at all their players on offense, I mean, everyone had a pretty good game offensively. Dylan Brooks was spectacular. If you just go through, everyone was efficient except for Van Fleet, but you're not really looking for him to give you some crazy offensive production. You're just looking for his leadership and his defense, honestly. But from a Rocket standpoint, I would be thinking, yeah, I'm happy we got the win. We're locking up the 2 seed. I'm not sure if they are locked in, but they basically are at this point. So, from that standpoint, of course, you're happy to get the win. You're happy with how your defense looked. You clamped up Steph Curry for only 3 points. And then really no one else got off on the Warriors. Like I said, their leading scorer was Buddy Hield with 20 points. Gary Payton gave you 16. They're both 7 for 14, so 50% shooting for both of them. And then AirPods gave you 19 on 7 for 14 as well, so 50% shooting for him. So when your defense plays that good and, clamps up Steph Curry to 3 points, his second lowest scoring game of the season, again, he had 2 points against Memphis. I think that was in December or November. But when you clamp him up that bad, and comment below what you think, but if I was Ime Udoka, I'd be thinking, man, we clamped up Steph Curry to only 3 points. Jimmy Butler, 13 points on only 7 shots. That's actually really efficient. That's a good game. But again, when we're clicking on all cylinders defensively, just clamping up Steph, and then like I said, you have a lot of efficient scoring from your offense. 14, 24 for Brooks, the 14 for Thompson, 19 for Şengün, 21 for Jalen Green, even though he took 19 shots. My major takeaway would be, if I was Houston, yes, I'm proud of our guys. The defense was awesome. That's going to help you win playoff games, playing defense like that. That's, playoff caliber defense. That's really what you want to see from your guys. But on the flip side, like I was saying, if you hold Steph Curry to only 3 points, but you only win the game by 10, I'd be kind of worried and kind of iffy about that, because if they meet up in the playoffs, Steph Curry is not going to give you a 3-point game. There's not going to be one game in the playoffs where Steph Curry doesn't score 15 plus, in my opinion. I mean, I don't see any playoff game where you're going to hold Steph under 15 points. He's probably going to be scoring more like 20, 30, 40 points, to be honest with you. This was I don't want to say it was just an off game by Steph Curry. It was an off game, but the reason was the Rockets were just giving him air hugs all game long. I'm not touching you. I'm not touching you. My arm was here first. My arms were here first. And then if Steph Curry runs into the arms, the refs weren't calling them fouls, so I guess they weren't. I don't know. Comment below what you think. There was definitely times when they were fouling Steph Curry off ball. Say he's trying to run off a screen, whatever it was, they would hook him, kind of have their arm around his waist so he couldn't get cleanly off of the screen. And I think those are fouls, honestly, but in the playoffs, that's going to happen a lot, and it's not going to get called. If the Warriors and Rockets matched up in a playoff series, I think the Warriors are going to win the series in 6 games. It might even go 7. I trust the Warriors' experience more than I trust the Rockets' talent. I feel like the Rockets are just too young at this point to beat a team like Golden State. And, Steph Curry, again, is not going to be giving you 3 points in the playoffs. This was a discussion. It's probably 10 years plus ago now. Oh, you just got to play Steph Curry physical. If you be physical, you're going to bother him and give him all this trouble. And that's true to some degree, but Golden State, they're a 4-time championship team with Steph Curry. So they're going to make adjustments. This is not the first time that Stephen Curry's seen physical defense or had guys play physical defense against him. And when it's happened in the past, Warriors make the adjustment. They find out different ways to use Steph Curry, and he's going to get his. Again, if they meet up in the playoffs, Golden State's going to make some adjustments. Even game 1, they're going to make adjustments, from watching this game and seeing how Houston was playing Steph Curry, and Curry's going to be able to get off. Houston's not going to hold him to 3 points or even under 15 in any playoff game, in my opinion. But I give all the credit to the Rockets. They played great defense, just nasty defense out there. They totally clamped Steph Curry. Got to give them all the credit. Again, comment below what you think. I don't think Houston can beat Golden State in a playoff series just because Golden State has so much experience. Steph Curry's not going to be scoring 3 points in those games again, like I was saying. But, I would give them 2 games against Golden State. I could see them losing in 6, maybe pushing it to 7 and making it interesting, but I don't think they have quite yet the experience. They're a little young to beat a team like Golden State with all of Golden State's playoff experience. But you never know. If it was my money, I'm going to put on Golden State, even despite how this game looked, because and 2 things were true this game. Was an off game for Stephen Curry. Yes, it was an off game for Stephen Curry. Was the Rockets' defense amazing and a gigantic part of why Steph Curry had an off game? That was true as well. So I don't think it was a fluke, like I was saying. I think the Rockets will play this style of defense. Defense doesn't just go away. They're coached by Ime Udoka. They're really hard nosed on defense, and they're going to play tough defense every single night against any team they play. Defense always travels, and the Rockets are always going to play tough defense. So the defense is going to be there against whatever team they play. But, on the flip side, Steph Curry and the Warriors are going to make adjustments, and they're going to find ways for Stephen Curry to be effective against the Rockets, against whatever team the Warriors end up playing, because he's the greatest shooter of all time. He's just too good to not make the adjustments. Warriors are just too good of a coach team, if that makes sense, to not make those adjustments and kind of get Steph Curry going. But again, all credit to Houston. Just amazing game for the Rockets. Again, just air hugs on Steph Curry. They were hooking him around the waist while he's coming off screens. They were hooking him kind of every chance they get. But again, credit to the Rockets. If the refs aren't going to call those hooks, keep hooking him, keep giving him air hugs, because once the playoff starts, they might call a couple of those, but they're not going to call a lot of that stuff, because it wasn't like it was egregious fouls. They were just getting really physical with Steph Curry. Again, I was laughing. It was kind of funny to watch, because Steph's in the middle, and they're just like that, just air hugging him, not touching him, but just clamped on him. But again, comment below what you think. I would take Golden State in 6 games if this does become a playoff series, just because of the Rockets' youth and lack of experience in the playoffs. But it would be a good series. I wouldn't be surprised if it got to 7. Please comment below what you think. Just crazy defense by Houston. Really fun game to watch. And again, I would still take Golden State in a playoff series, but it would be really fun to watch, and I definitely look forward to seeing these two teams hopefully match up against each other. Please like and subscribe as well if you finished the video, and please comment below what you think about the Rockets defense, how you think this playoff series would look if they did play in the playoffs, and then just what you think about Steph Curry's performance as well.